Hey everyone, I'm Michael Fangman, product designer for Secure Dynamic Analysis. I'm going to take you through a quick UX scorecard study I did on on-demand DAST scans. So to give you a little context, the UX scorecard is a process similar to a heuristic evaluation that helps identify usability issues and score a given experience. Using the UX scorecard process to walk through a workflow end-to-end in critical detail enables us to quickly spot opportunities for improvement. So for this particular study, the data that I gathered is basically collected through a self-heuristic evaluation. The persona that this task would typically be used or focused on is Sam, a security analysis analyst. And the job to be done is when I'm assessing the security of my application in production, I want to know whether the app is currently vulnerable so that I can address detected business critical vulnerabilities. So with that, let's dig in. All right, so to start, I'm already within the context of the project that I want to test. So the first thing I would do is probably come in here and see if there are actually any known vulnerabilities already existing. So looking at the project menu here on the sidebar, I'm probably going to go down to security and compliance. And looking at the options there, we have security dashboard, vulnerability report, on-demand scans, dependency list, license compliance, threat monitoring, configuration, and audit events. So to find if there's any existing vulnerabilities, I'm going to hop over to the vulnerability report. Okay, so from what I see here, there's nothing currently in here. It doesn't even look like security testing has been configured on this project. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this configure security testing button and see if we can get stuff set up. Okay, so there's a lot going on here right away. I know that I want to focus on the DAST scan because I'm trying to scan a live site, so I'm going to just focus on that. So as I look into this, I see that there are two different scanners for DAST scans. So the first of which is Dynamic Application Security Testing, and looking at the description here, it says analyze a review version of your web application. And so I don't want to scan a review version. I want to actually scan a live production site, so that's not the option I want. So the other option we have here is DAST scans. And the description says saved scan settings and target site settings, which are reusable. Okay, I think that might be right when they talk about target site. I'm still not sure, but the thing that really clues me in here is the status. It says available for on-demand DAST. And I think that's what I want. So let's click on the manage function. Okay. So manage DAST scans, it doesn't look like anything's really been set up here yet. Looking at the description, I can see that this is used for on-demand scans. So that sounds promising. But let's see, so there's no save scans, there's no site profiles, and there's no scanner profiles. So before I really get too in the weeds here, I want to make sure that on-demand scans is actually what I want. So I do remember seeing it in the security and compliance menu, so I'm going to hop over to that. Okay, so we're on the page for on-demand scans. And it says at the top, new on-demand DAST scans. On-demand scans run outside of the DevOps cycle and find vulnerabilities in your project. That sounds right. I think it's exactly what I want. So let's go ahead and fill this out and see if we can get a scan running. So to start, I'm just going to go ahead and give it a scan name. Description, we'll skip that for now. Branch, the master is fine because that is what generally points to my production environment. The next up is a scanner profile. It doesn't look like anything's been created yet, but I'm able to do that here. It's really nice that this button and function is here versus having to jump back to the screen I was just at. So let's click on create a new scanner. So at first glance here, everything seems to look pretty standard. So I'll give it a profile name for the scanner. So let's just say, knowing that we're going to scan a production environment, I'm going to run a passive scan because I don't want to be too invasive and try to bring down the site. So we have passive scan already pre-selected for us, and then looking at the timeout options, we'll just leave those as default too. So just a couple more options on this page. So the first of which is Ajax Spyder. And I have the option to turn that on, but I'm really not sure what that is. So there is a tooltip here, or a little info bubble. So let's look and see what that says. So it says run the Ajax Spyder in addition to a traditional spider to crawl the target site. Okay, that sounds cool. It sounds like I'm going to get more coverage on my scan, but I'm really not sure what the Ajax Spyder is or what it does. So having some sort of context around why I'd want to do this, I think is very important. luckily for me, I've read through the documentation earlier on and learned that the Ajax Spyder is generally used for sites that require JavaScript. And so knowing that a production site does require JavaScript, I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. And then there's debug messages here. We're not going to need that for now, so we'll just ignore that. So we'll save the profile. And then we're taken back to our on-demand scan configuration. It's nice, our profile was already pre-selected here for us that we just filled out. And then there's all of the configuration options are displayed too to help confirm that we do have the right profile and everything's good to go. So with that, I think we can move on to the site profile. So we'll go ahead and create that. Since it's a production site, we'll just call it that. The target URL, we'll go ahead and grab that. And then we have the option to exclude URLs. I think this would be a great option and something I may want to do. One thing that I thought was interesting about this is you wouldn't know it here, but as you hover over the tooltip, it says the URLs to skip during an authenticated scan. It's interesting because we have an option down here to enable authenticated scanning, and I haven't done that yet. So I'm thinking that if I were to fill this out right now and not include authentication, this wouldn't do anything. So I'm curious why this is here and why it's not nested under this authenticated scan configuration section. So something to think about. Either we need to do some clarification here so users aren't confused, or maybe move this to the appropriate section where it's more relevant. So anyhow, we're going to go ahead and just skip authentication for now for the simplicity, and then go ahead and save this profile. So just like the scanner profile, the site profile is pre-selected for us. One thing that's interesting though is within this profile menu here, we see at the very end of our scan name, not validated. So I don't recall any sort of validation options being given to me when I was creating the site profile, but perhaps we missed something. So let's go back and take a look. Okay, yeah, so there's nothing here. Maybe it's under authenticated scanning. Nope. So there's nothing here about validating a site profile. I'm not really sure what that means or if that's something I need. There's nothing on the configuration page. There's nothing here to really clue me into what that is. But I do see that we are able to save and run the scan. So let's go ahead and do that and just see what happens. Okay, so I'm brought to a new screen here. Looks like something's going on. I see something's pending. I can cancel the running. I'm not sure what this title is, initial template creation, because I didn't put that in anywhere during the configuration. So if I wasn't the one working in this repo and I was responsible just for testing the security of it, I'd be a little confused around why this title's here and what it means and where it came from. But moving down the page, we can see, okay, it's from our master branch. Some interesting information, and then we get down here to the DAST process. We can see that's currently running. If we hover over it, we actually see that it is running and that we have the option to click on this. So let's click on it and see what happens. All right, so I can see the scan's running. It looks like we have a log here. We can see a duration. It's not updated in real time, but nonetheless, it's still, oh, nice, it does update for us. We do have a timeout, you can see what runner, what commit, and basically get a summary of what's going on now. So I'm not sure how long this process is going to take, so we're going to go ahead and go do something else, and we'll check back at this scan in a little while and see how it's doing. All right, so it's been a little bit. We've given our scan some time to run. I've gone and done some other things in GitLab, navigated back to my project, and now I want to see how my scan is doing. So to do that, I think the first thing I would do is I would just come back to security compliance and go right to the on-demand scans. So if I do that, I'm taken to a screen where I can configure a new DAST scan. That's not what I want. Obviously, I want to check on my current scan or the scan I just ran. So I'm a little confused here, but I do see this option to manage DAST scans up top. So let's click on that and see if that takes us where I need to go. Okay, so I do see now this looks like the scan I just ran. So this is my production environment. I can tell it was a passive scan. So this definitely looks like the right thing. It looks like I have an option to run the scan again. So maybe that means that the scan is done. I'm not sure. It looks like I can click on this. We'll go ahead and click and see if we can get more information. Okay, so we're actually taken back to a page where we can configure and edit the scan and start a new one. Again, that's not what I want. I want to check on my current scan. So I'm a little confused on how to do that right now. I guess from here, I'm going to go ahead and actually go back to that vulnerability report that I started and see if there's anything in there. All right. So I do see now we do have some vulnerabilities that have been reported. And just from a quick look, I can tell the vulnerabilities are from a DAST scan. So that's got to be what I just ran. Still not sure if the scan's completely done. Looking around the page some more, I do see this last updated box up here 5 minutes ago, and then it has a link. So I'm guessing that probably links to my scan. So I'm gonna click on that. Okay, yep. So this is my scan I just ran. So I can see that it's passed. Going back down to the DAST section, it does have a check mark and says it passed. So clicking in. All right, so yep, same page here. Looking at the log, there's a lot that happened. I'm sure there's a lot I can dig into here. But I think what's most important right now is just seeing at the end here that the job succeeded. So knowing that that's the case, we can hop back to the vulnerability report and start looking through our vulnerabilities. And so with that, that does complete the job to be done. There are a couple other things to note here about the experience. One thing that's interesting is in the on-demand scan section, if we were to come in here and say somebody else had already run an on-demand scan, let's go ahead and take a look at that. So if I were to come in here and I want to set up a new scan, obviously I can set up the scan name, the description, but if I wanted to create a new profile, I don't think there's any easy signifier to show that I can do that here. I see there's an option here to select an existing profile, but I'm not sure how I create a new one. That option's actually hidden under this menu. And I think with the label of the menu, it's not inherently clear to users that that's where they would go to actually create a new profile too. So that might cause some confusion for users. But beyond that, I think the experience ultimately was decent. I was able to do the job. There were some stumbles along the way, but ultimately, again, it was a successful project. So with that, I basically thought about the experience a little bit and gave it a benchmark score of C. And so that is average. So what that means is that the ease of the experience is neither easy nor difficult, and generally the experience as a whole is neither good nor bad. All right, thanks a lot, everyone.